Hallo und herzlich willkommen zurück zu einer neuen Folge von Tales of the Black Death. Sollte eigentlich nicht so fröhlich sein bei so einem ernsten Thema, aber es ist halt so, ne? Ich habe mal gerade in meiner Pause, also ich nehme mal die Folgen gerade alle hintereinander auf, habe ich mir gerade so drüber nachgedacht und ich glaube, zum Zuschauen ist dieses Spiel tatsächlich nicht so spannend. Vielleicht irre ich mich auch, aber ich glaube, zum Zuschauen ist es nicht so spannend. Es ist eigentlich schon besser, wenn man selber spielt. Ich mag es bisher total gerne und es ist zwar viel zu lesen, aber es ist jetzt auch nicht so, also ich glaube, wenn da so eine Textwand wäre, ne, was ja im Endeffekt zwar ist, wenn man alles hintereinander wegschreiben würde, was da so passiert, aber dadurch, dass es halt immer nur so ein, zwei Sätze sind, so in einem Feld quasi, die man vorliest, fühlt es sich nicht so viel an, finde ich. Und ich muss aber trotzdem sagen, ich glaube, es ist besser als Spiel, das man halt selber spielt, weil so als Let's Play weiß ich nicht. Ich möchte aber auf jeden Fall Italien zeigen und ich würde sagen, wenn ihr dann wissen möchtet, wie es weitergeht, dann spielt das Spiel auf jeden Fall selber. Also ich empfehle das sowieso, weil ich treffe hier Entscheidungen, die ihr vielleicht nicht so treffen würdet. Jedenfalls werde ich nur Italien hier auf diesem Kanal zeigen, nur dass ihr es wisst. So. In the grey sky, seagulls circle the docks, hoping to find discarded fish. The food market, usually buzzing with peddlers, is deserted, except for a few fishermen negotiating raw oyster and pickled herring prices. A slender boy grabs your attention as he passes behind one of the merchants and swiftly walks away with something tucked under his shirt. Without missing a beat, he disappears behind the food stand, only to emerge a few moments after right behind you. Lorenzo, so what are you? The market watchman? Yeah, I saw you peeking my way. I have a sixth sense about these things. After diving his hand deep under his shirt, the boy takes out a smoked herring. That's the reward for being nimble and clever. Huh? Denounced the young thief? To the merchant, praised the boy's quickness of hand. Nein, wir verpfeifen ihn nicht. Jeder muss überleben und außerdem, wir haben nichts dafür zu tun. Also ja, hast du gut gemacht, toll. When you've traveled... Wir haben schon wieder Moral verloren, ne? When you've traveled the world as I did... die Welt, Lorenzo? Die Welt? Okay. Survival becomes second nature. The boy tucks the smoked herring back under his shirt and starts to walk away, but reconsiders. My name is Lorenzo. You introduce yourself and mention your sick parents. That's strange. Just near the pier, there's this merchant boat stranded on the beach. The crew looked dead sick. Black patches, pale skin, bugged out eyes. You wonder if your parents were victims of the same illness. Anyhow, I'm heading out of here. Small towns are not the best places for anonymity. Weiß schon, ne? Without another word, the boy leaves your sight. Passing behind a few market stands and walking between shadow and light, the boy disappears. You think of your ailing parents and hesitate. The shipwreck feels so close. Go see the shipwreck. Return home to your parents. Jetzt mal ganz ehrlich, ne? Bei beiden sind wir eventuell infiziert. Ja, wir gucken uns das mal an. Bitte geh nicht wieder rein. Junge. Guck's dir von außen an. Ja, das ist eine gute Distance. Distanz heißt es auf Deutsch. Bin schon voll in Englisch. Guck mal, Distance, da oben steht es auch. Your toes dig deep into the soft sand as you climb up the dune to peer into the distance. On the coast, the largest sailing vessel you've ever seen is shipwrecked. Breaking waves are rocking the boat on its keel and produce an eerie melody that comes and goes. Next to the vessel, you notice a guard keeping watch. You don't recognize the man and suspect the news of the shipwreck brought authorities from out of town. Pass behind the guard, return home. Mein Gott, das ist schwer. Wir gehen nach Hause. Was sollen wir auf dem Schiff? Wir gehen nach Hause. Wir haben es kurz gesehen, das muss reichen. The Grave Return, ja super. Das hört sich ja gut an. With a strange feeling of doom, you follow the familiar path leading up the hill and to your house. The shade of the large oak trees, the ominous silence, the closed shutters all make your home look more secluded than ever. Prudently, you open the door and call out to your parents. Your calls are left unanswered, and you fear the worst. As you creep into the house, you find both your parents dead in their beds. Du solltest doch nicht dahin. Obwohl, jetzt sind wir ja versorgt, ne? Their gaping mouth and bloodshot eyes staring into oblivion are a horrible reminder that life is precarious. Nicht precious auch, aber precarious. Telling yourself that at least they are no longer in agony doesn't give you any solace. Ja, das stimmt. Es ist schön, dass die jetzt keine Schmerzen mehr haben, aber bury their bodies, let them be. Nein, wir burying thee. Wir burying thee. Nein. Nein, wir können die einfach so lassen. You leave the house and pick up the shovel near the chicken coop. Until dusk, you dig the hole that will become the last resting place for your parents. Once completed, you grimly head into the house. You wrap your mother in her bed sheets and bring her body to the yard. As you do so, you cannot keep back your tears. A few moments later, you lay your father beside her. You shovel dirt on top of them until you are exhausted. You collapse at the foot of their grave, okay, ist nur ein Grab, and close your eyes. You create a tombstone out of a pile of rocks in their memory. You feel at peace, knowing you gave your parents a proper resting place. In the distance, you see the priest of the parish climbing up the hill to your house. He takes one look at you and shakes his head. Baldasar, you have my deepest condolences, hat er. Die tiefsten Kondolenzien. You lower your head and stare at the ground. Sadly, I come bearing distressing news. Ja, das ist ja nett. Authorities are arresting those who might have contact with this vile infection. Your name was mentioned. Hä? Wieso? The doctor has ordered you to be placed under quarantine. You take a step back, wondering what you should do. I came here to warn you. Your parents were devoted to the church. I'd hate to see their son die in a cell. Danke. I suggest you flee. Ask for a ceremony to honor your parents. Ask for advice. Kannst du noch kurz hier segnen? The priest nods solemnly. As you wish. The priest starts a prayer for your parents. You close your eyes and take it all in. Tears drip from your cheeks, yet you feel strangely at peace. Footsteps interrupt the ceremony. You open your eyes and see two men holding spears. Ja, das ist ja fein. In a matter of seconds, they arrest you and take you into town, where you are placed in a large barn with other villagers. Aber die sind doch bestimmt, vielleicht sind da welche krank. Sage mal, das toll, wieder falsch gemacht, weißt du? Days go by before the doctor has the time to come and visit you, and when he does, it's too late. You are found dead from a mysterious illness. Ich war doch gar nicht krank. Ich bin gestorben schon wieder. Backtrack and make wiser decisions. Menschenskinder. Okay. Was ich jetzt nochmal machen möchte, ist dem Priest, wenn er kommt, um Advice zu fragen. Ich kann so gut sprechen. Und gucken, ob das was bringt. Weil den Rest würde ich eigentlich tatsächlich so lassen. Oder sagen wir einfach, vielleicht zeigen wir dem Arzt nur unsere Hand. Ja, komm, wir machen das mal. Wir zeigen dem Arzt nur unsere Hand. Und sagen dann nichts. Dann lasse ich das jetzt mal eben so. The Audio Bilder. Oder, nee, warte. Olive Tree Carving. Doch. Oh Gott, wir sind voll weit hinten, ne? Okay. Ja, okay. Wir gucken mal. Wenn wir beim Arzt sind, sehen wir uns erstmal wieder. Einen Moment. So, da sind wir wieder beim Arzt. Was wir natürlich auch noch hätten machen können, wäre, anstatt zum Arzt zu gehen, zum Priester zu gehen. Aber ich hätte eigentlich ganz gerne, dass er unsere Wunde heilt. Deswegen zeigen wir ihm jetzt nur unsere Wunde und gehen dann weiter. Du zeigst ihm deine Wunde, Vinces, Doktor, follow me. Genau, und dann macht er uns heile. Die brennt ein bisschen. Und dann sagt er, sie soll das. Genau. Und jetzt informieren wir ihn nicht. Es ist tatsächlich Quatsch, das zu tun, aber ja. Nein, wir lieben. Wir lieben und ich würde sagen, wir machen hier mit Lorenzo manchmal eben dasselbe wie vorher und dann gehen wir einmal kurz zum Schiff, so wie wir es vorher gemacht haben, gucken uns das an und dann gehen wir wieder zum Haus. So, jetzt weiß aber er ja nicht, dass wir Eltern haben, die krank sind. Wir gucken mal, was dann passiert. So, ich bin mal eben hier wieder. Also, wir haben jetzt die Mutter beerdigt. Wir waren kurz beim Schiff. Aber sind halt nicht reingegangen, so wie eben, ne? Und mit Lorenzo haben wir denselben Quatsch gemacht wie vorher. So, jetzt haben wir, genau, die Mutter liegt jetzt schon drin. Jetzt legen wir den Vater dazu. Und dann kollapsen wir und machen unsere Augen zu. Pile of rocks. Genau. So. In the distance you see the priest of the parish climbing up the hill to your house. Das hatten wir ja schon. He takes one look at you and shakes his head. Baldasar, you have my deepest condolences. Da, ne, wie eben. You lower your head and stare at the ground. Sadly, I come bearing distressing news. Hä? Aber wieso? Ich habe den Doktor gar nicht gesagt. Okay, ja, okay, mein Name war gemenschent. Has ordered? The doctor has ordered to play. Wieso? Der wusste doch gar nichts. Okay, sehr spannend. Okay, wir fragen uns, was wir tun sollen. Er ist gekommen, um uns zu warnen. Okay, bla. Ja, das möchte ich auch nicht. So, ask for device. Thievery, blasphemy, bloodshed, or any other unforgivable sin will ultimately lead to your demise. Some have fallen into despair and lunacy, others into melancholy or madness. Ja, das verstehe ich. Choose your words and your actions wisely. Das versuchen wir. Sometimes they can be forgiven, but never are they truly forgotten. You nod solemnly. Oh, and Baldasar. Do not lose yourself in foolish distractions. Das sagst du so einfach. After those alarming words, the priest wishes you luck and bites you farewell. Once the clergyman is out of sight, you glance at the deathly house one last time. Grief-ridden, you decide it's safer to leave all your belongings behind, as you being to follow the road heading north. Okay, wir gehen in den Norden. Meine Herren! Das ist ja voll gemein. Verloren. Was haben wir eigentlich, das Mehl noch? Nee, wir haben gar nichts. Ich weiß nicht, ob es nicht vielleicht sinnvoll gewesen wäre, im Schiff doch mal zu gucken. Aber dann hätte der Guard uns ja vielleicht geschnappt. Das ist ja auch doof. Naja, verloren. Wir haben verloren. Entschuldigung. Unsure, you follow the dirt path that leads into the nearby forest. Sind wir jetzt wieder beim Miller. As darkness creeps in, a thin fog materializes. Rising over the pine trees, you can see the sails of the windmill pulling at the mist. Disgruntled, you sit on the grassy lawn at the base of the windmill and stare into the dark night. The thought of your dead parents keeps finding its way into your mind, and your heart sinks down in your gut. You try to hold back your tears, but they just keep rolling off your cheeks. The wind dies down for a minute, and as the sails creak to a stop, you hear a voice behind you. Na toll. Lorenzo! Your parents are dead, aren't they? Just like the sailors near the wharf. Haphazardly, wiping off your tears, you nod slowly. Lorenzo takes a seat beside you. In silence, you watch as the sun sets over the horizon until darkness engulfs the valley. As your belly growls, Lorenzo takes out from his pocket the piece of fish he stole from the market, cuts it in half, and offers you a piece. Ach, der ist so nett. Nein, grab the piece of fish and eat it. Ja. You grab the piece of salted fish and chew in silently. Wieso geht jetzt ja gut, ich meine, das war ein gestohlener Fisch, aber der gibt den auch nicht zurück, wenn wir den nicht essen. Und wir sterben, wenn wir ihn nicht essen. Ja, okay. A faint glow appears from the church, and you wonder if the priest is having a nightly sermon to reassure his flock. The cross over the steeple serves as a reminder that God is our Savior and will protect the poor, the weak, and the defenseless. Tut er das? At least you hope he will. Stimmt. You are awoken by the sounds of thunder and notice a storm is brewing in the sky. Oh no. While you're still finding your bearings, Lorenzo is already packing his things. Come on. We better not linger too long in these parts. Especially if local authorities are on the lookout. Ja, da hast du recht. Sharing Lorenzo's sentiments, you pack in haste. You receive the first drops of rain on your forehead, and before long the rain grows into impressive flood. Ja, super. You mentioned to Lorenzo you could head over to your aunt's farmhouse beyond the valley. With rain dripping from his chin, Lorenzo nods in agreement. Walking down the hill, you wonder how you will explain your sudden return to Camilla. Ja, die Wahrheit am besten. And more importantly, how you will announce the death of your parents. Das ist nicht gut. Wir müssen der Camilla wohl sagen, was mit den Eltern passiert ist. Und ich muss erst mal einen Schluck trinken. So, das waren 2. Aber es ist jetzt so Wasser, Kakao ist leer. Mud deep. As quickly as it came, the storm drifts away, leaving Lorenzo and you soaking wet. The clouds part, and the early sun soon shines brightly, drying off your drenched clothes. As you hike up a small hill, you glance at Lorenzo. He seems to be in great spirits for a boy who didn't eat well all morning and ventures on a muddy road. You are about to say something when you notice a horse-pulled cart in the distance. The merchant cart appears to be stuck deep in the mud. A stranger is pulling at the horse as his companion tries to lift the heavy cart out of the mud. As you approach, the stranger waves you over. As you prepare to walk towards him, Lorenzo places his hand on your shoulder. I don't think they are merchants. Indeed, clothes in rags and mismatched shoes, they look more like thugs or drifters. Drive back and leave the road. Wie oft bin ich schon gestorben? 2-mal, ne? Aber ich kann denen doch nicht einfach nicht helfen. Ach Mann. Nein, wir mieten die. As you get closer, the stranger starts to grin. Na toll, jetzt tötet er uns. Tot sind wir. Stranger, you guys arrived just in time. We were heading to Florence to sell some of our goods. And lo and behold, one of the wheels came loose. Lorenzo gives you a suspicious stare and walks closer to examine the cart. This always happens on these muddy back roads. Do you mind giving us a hand? Ich würde meine Hand gerne behalten. Maybe lift the cart off the ground while we put the wheel back on? Just as you reach the cart, your gaze wanders across the field where you notice a patch of color in a ditch. Focusing your eye, you realize in horror it's a dead person. Face down in the muddy grass. Ja, wer hätte das gedacht? Silently, you point out the macabre discovery to Lorenzo. That's the merchant. I bet these thugs jumped him and now they are stealing his cart. Toll! And we are helping them with their evil deed. Seeing your pale face, one of the strangers approaches you menacingly. Is there something wrong? As you mention the dead guy in the ditch, the stranger's posture suddenly changes and he puts on a large smile. Wieso sagst du denn sowas? Ja, also da drüben liegt der Kerl, den ihr gerade umgebracht habt, oder? Was ist denn los mit dir, Junge? That guy over there? Yeah, well, listen. The cart was abandoned. We looked around and saw this guy in the ditch. So we thought, he's dead, right? He won't need a cart or these goods anymore, right? So we decided to take the cart, bring it back to Florence. Maybe find his wife or something. And give her the cart. The stranger lets this information sink in and then adds, the guy was already dead when we found the cart. Lorenzo shakes his head in disbelief. You don't believe us? Have a look for yourself. Flieh! Ich möchte aber jetzt schon, das ist eine doofe Idee, ne? Okay, vielleicht können wir dann immer noch fliehen. Ich will jetzt wissen, was mit der Korps ist. You walk over to the dead merchant and bend over to examine him. Ja, wahrscheinlich mit dem Rücken zu den anderen, ne? You are about to turn him over when you notice the same dark patches on his skin as your parents had. Okay. You step back in horror. See? I told you we didn't kill the guy. Yeah, okay. Why not help us get the wheel back onto the cart? I'm in a generous mood. We could reward you with a little something. Ich meine, es ist zwar immer noch Diebstahl dann, weil wahrscheinlich bringen die den nicht zurück zur Ehefrau, aber zumindest haben sie anscheinend den Mann nicht umgebracht. Oder? Denke ich. Ja, komm, wir helfen. Wir helfen ihnen jetzt. Wir helfen ihnen, gucken, was rauskommt. Ansonsten machen wir es nochmal und dann fliehen wir. The two men look at each other and grin. I knew you'd understand. You walk over to the cart and Lorenzo joins you. Together you lift up the rear of the cart while the men try to slide the metal wheel back onto the axle as the strangers secure the wheel, and you keep having the feeling they lied to you in some way. Ja. Aber welcher? Once the wheel is properly attached, one of the strangers gives it a precautionary kick to test its sturdiness. Looks like that's going to hold. Well, thanks for all the help. We couldn't have fixed this cart without you. Lorenzo observes you with suspicious eyes. Ah, yeah, I forgot. You guys wanted a reward? Nee, ja, vielleicht. Ich weiß nicht. Ach, komm schon. Wir waren so nett. Ich habe Angst. Well, might as well get going then. Ich habe mich nicht getraut, danach zu fragen. Sonst hätten die bestimmt uns geschlagen und so. Oder? Ich weiß es nicht. Boah, es ist schlimm, ne? Ich weiß echt überhaupt nicht, was richtig und was falsch ist. Furchtbar. Ja, okay, wir haben jetzt auf jeden Fall nichts gekriegt. Und wir haben Dinge. Wofür? Ach Mann. Keine Ahnung. Egal, wir machen einfach weiter. Roadblock at the bridge. Oh nein. Walking down the grassy slope, you notice a river in the distance. Soldiers bearing long spears are blocking the access to the lone bridge. Further away, you notice a man pulling on an old grey mule. A sickly, pale young boy is lying on the mule. Guards. Do you think this could have something to do with the stolen cart? I think it's better if we stay back. These guys can only mean trouble. Get closer to the guarded bridge. Hide and then... Okay, wir hören jetzt mal auf Lorenzo. You quickly hide in the nearby bushes. Lorenzo points out an iron cage wagon near the bridge. That cage is a death trap. Luckily, the guards didn't see us. As you survey the area, Lorenzo shoves his pointy elbow into your side. Hey, look, a path that leads under the bridge. Without another word, Lorenzo sneaks past the bushes and heads toward the river. Ja, hinterher. You quickly follow suit, mimicking his every move, sneaking from shadow to shadow. Under the bridge, Lorenzo dips his boot in the river. No wonder they built a bridge. Look at this river. It's foaming at the mouth, ready to devour us alive. Das möchten wir nicht. In the rapids, you make out a few rocks that could serve to cross the river. What do you think we should do? Ach komm. Wir hatten doch jetzt ein neues Chapter, ne? Ja. Entschuldigung. Carefully you step on the stone close to you, then jump to another large stone and further into the river. You glance back and see Lorenzo following your every step. Ich vermute mal, Lorenzo macht er wahrscheinlich besser als ich, aber warum bin ich denn vorgegangen? Naja. You spot another rock that could be a good landing point near the riverbank, but as you get ready to jump, you are quickly halted by a muffled cry. Run! Oh no! You turn around and see Lorenzo quickly ducking in the bushes. In front of you, soldiers gather with spears. One of them jumps into the river and reaches you. They force you to the riverbanks and drag you to an iron cage and lock you in. Na toll! Schon wieder tot? The iron cage bars are cold and sturdy. Biding your time, you take a seat on the wooden side bench. Das ist ja schön, dass wie sie da ist. A few moments later, you hear one of the guards approaching. I've brought you some company. The guards open the cage, and a man and a sickly boy are pushed in. One of the guards ties the old grey mule behind the cart. The pale skin of the boy and his painful coughing reminds you of your sick parents. Ja, super. Cover your mouth with your shirt, pray to God. Nee, ich glaube nicht, dass das viel hilft. Wir coveren mal. You quickly cover your mouth, your face with the shirt you have on and keep a close eye on the new cellmates. Okay. After a while, the cart starts to move, the old mule follows behind it. You begin to understand this might be your last ride, as the wagon feels like a death trap. Ja, toll. Müssen wir das jetzt hier noch wirklich mit diesem Kart hier rumfahren, obwohl wir eigentlich schon längst tot sind irgendwie? As the iron cage passes below a tall tree, you hear a familiar croak. As you look up, you see a raven on a thin branch. A shiver passes through your spine. The crows are lurking. Ignazio, das ist ein toller Name. You look at the man sitting in front of you in the iron cage. Corvus. Corvid heißt es. Crows, ravens, and rooks. They all smell death from miles away. Holding his son close to him, the father starts to caress the boy's pale forehead. I've lost my wife this morning. Now my boy is sick. He needs a doctor. Not being stuck in a cage. And the crows, the ravens, and the rooks. They are watching. Du bist gruselig. Frightful, you look up at the tree branches and count 5 ravens. You hear gagging, and as you look at the sickly boy with disgust, black saliva covers his pale lips. God himself sent us this disease. Ich glaube nicht. Disagree with this blasphemy. Ich weiß nicht, ob das so eine gute Idee ist in dem Cage, aber okay. Ja, nee, du. Blasphemy. Annoyed, the father spits in your face and looks away. Ja, super Idee. Das war eine super Idee. Don't go thinking you're better than the rest of the lot. Spuck nicht. Erstens ekelig, zweitens Pest. So. Using your sleeve, you wipe the plum off your face in disgust. You move to the furthest corner of the cage. The wagon travels the whole day and finally stops at nightfall. The guards set up camp not too far away from the iron cage. The night air is cold and the wind is relentless. On the opposite side of the iron cage, the father and son have managed to fall asleep, but from time to time the body of the young boy trembles with fever. You overhear the guards describing the rest of the journey and understand you will have 3 long days trapped in this gloomy cage. Bis dahin ist doch verhungert. You examine the father, his dark sunken eyes, his very pale skin, and deduce he might also be battling some type of infection. With great hesitation, you pull up your shirt and examine your frail body. You are relieved not to find any black patches. Still, you feel a swelling in your throat. Dass der Durst. Nein! A whisper comes out of the darkness. Hey. Hi. Da ich nochmal. It's me. Looks like you're still alive. Ja, noch. Okay, wir gucken mal. Ich glaube, wir müssen das gleich nochmal machen, ohne dass der Mann uns anspuckt. Under the pale moonlight, you can barely discern a small silhouette, but the voice is undeniably it's Lorenzo. And guess what? Those soldiers are drunk as skunks. I managed to steal the key of one of them. Lorenzo edges closer to the cage. Baldasar, you don't look so good. Are you infected? You describe your swollen throat and itchy eyes to Lorenzo, hoping he will brush it off as some sort of allergies. Instead, he walks away from the iron cage, mortified. A swollen throat? Show me your neck. Pull. Yeah, here. You get closer to the cage, expose your neck and body. Relieved not to see any of those dark skin patches, Lorenzo continues. Maybe you caught some kind of flu sleeping out here. Yeah. Better hurry to your aunt's house so she can have a look at you. Okay, let's ride the mule to save time. Oh, hoffentlich geht es gut. Lorenzo looks at the old man and his child behind you. They won't need it. This kid is already dead. As Lorenzo unlocks the iron cage, you feel your fever getting stronger. As soon as the gate opens, the father pushes you aside and carries his child directly to the mule. Get out of my way. This is my mule and I need it. You will be damned if you steal from me. Lorenzo grabs the bridle attached to the mule's head. We are taking the mule, old man. Right, Baldasar? Hören wir auf Lorenzo. Sonst sterbe ich. Weil ich bin infiziert, weil du gespuckt hast. Hättest du nicht gespuckt, hättest du ein blödes Mühl behalten können. Wir nehmen das Mühl. Feverish, you push the old man aside and climb on the mule. Lorenzo jumps on in front of you and whips the old animal. As you flee, you look at the blurry scene behind you, the father kneeling on the ground holding his dying child. Es tut mir leid, aber ist eh tot. You will be damned. Ja, das fürchte ich auch. Puhuhu. Wir sind eh bald tot. Lorenzo rides the mule into the dead of night, following the narrow path that leads to your aunt's home. As the fever grows, time becomes a blur and you lose consciousness. Okay. The Dark Fields. Sind wir denn noch am Leben so? Okay. Ich glaube ganz ehrlich, wir werden sterben. Also, können wir denn... Warte mal. Nee, wir können nur das ganze Chapter resetten und ich will nicht das ganze Chapter... Okay. Was auch immer jetzt passiert, wir nehmen es einfach an. In the darkness, you hear your aunt's familiar voice and feel reassured. For 2 days, you are delirious, battling with the strong fever. You have vague memories of your aunt feeding you barley water and boiled onions. Then one morning, you sit in bed, feeling much cured. Gott sei Dank, wir leben wenigstens noch. Your aunt sits at the edge of your bed, a worrisome look on her face. How are you feeling, Baldasar? Ah, he looks fine. Can I have a bit more soup? Your aunt smiles and nods at Lorenzo, who quickly fills up his bowl. Want some? You shake your head as Aunt Camilla places her cold hand on your forehead. What brings you back to the countryside, Baldasar? Announce your parents' death or confess you're fleeing from soldiers. Nein, wir müssen erstmal davon reden, leider. Your aunt's eyes widen as she slowly sits down to digest the troubling news. Noticing Camilla going silent, you try to comfort her. A strange illness surrounds us, nothing like this fever. People are dying. Aunt Camilla looks at you with worrisome eyes. People are dying? Aunt Camilla gets up and looks far out the window for a short moment, then walks over to the stove to check on the boiling soup. It would be wise to never go back home, Baldasar. You both can spend the night and tomorrow. Best you leave before authorities come here. You walk closer to the warm fireplace and wonder. Your aunt's house is the only safe place you know of. You know of. Ich muss was trinken. Mein Hals kratzt nämlich auch. Ich frage mich wirklich, ob wir krank geworden wären, wenn er uns nicht angespuckt hätte. Wahrscheinlich nicht, oder? Okay. Soon Aunt Camilla places a warm bowl of soup in front of you. Florence is the city where you should go. In your mind, Florence sounds almost like a mystical place. Lorenzo stares into the flames in silence. As the shadow flickers... Ist gerade unsere Moral hochgegangen? Ich habe was gesehen? Keine Ahnung. As the shadows flicker around the room, you feel nervous, but with your belly filled with hot soup, manage to fall asleep. They are coming. Oh nein. Ich dachte, wir fliehen jetzt einfach und sind dann weg. Okay. Dann würde ich sagen, diese Folge ist zu Ende. Wir haben knapp überlebt. Mal sehen, ob das auch weiter so gut geht mit dem Überleben. Ich habe ein bisschen Angst. Aber ja, wir sind schon echt weit gekommen, finde ich. Mal sehen, ob wir aus Italien noch rauskommen. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen erstmal. Wenn ihr selber spielen wollt und selber Entscheidungen treffen wollt, der Link ist unten in der Beschreibung zu der Steam-Seite des Spiels. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und wir sehen uns in der nächsten Folge zu Tales of the Black Death. Bis dann. Tschüss.